You know that voice in your head? The one narrating your life like it's some kind of Oscar-worthy tragedy? Yeah, turns out it's not exactly Shakespeare. It's more like a slightly drunk improv actor who just thinks they're nailing the performance. Your brain has one job: keep you alive. Unfortunately, it often interprets alive as anxiously overthinking every minor social interaction since 2008. That feeling of, oh no, they hate me, when someone replies with just K in a text, that's your brain spiraling into existential dread over literally nothing. It's trying to keep you safe from emotional saber-toothed tigers. Apparently. Here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't always care about what's true. It cares about what feels true. If something feels risky or uncertain or remotely uncomfortable, your brain slaps a giant red warning label on it. Cue the self-doubt, the imaginary arguments in the shower, the inner monologues that would put telenovelas to shame. Psychologists call this cognitive distortion. It's like Photoshop for your thoughts. But instead of making things look better, it just stretches reality into a weird, anxious mess. Your crush didn't text back? Probably because they died in a freak stampede. Or they're just busy. But mostly the stampede. Bottom line, your brain isn't always your bestie. Sometimes it's just making stuff up with the confidence of a toddler wearing a superhero cape. Okay, let's play a game. Think about a purple elephant. Boom, you just did. But does that mean a purple elephant is rampaging through your living room right now? Hopefully not. If so, call someone. This is the fundamental glitch in the human system. Just because you thought it doesn't make it real. But your brain didn't get that memo. It treats every random, intrusive, bizarre thought like it's carved in stone. You have a thought like, I'm a failure, and suddenly your entire identity is on trial because your brain decided to cosplay as Judge Judy. There's a name for this trickery: thought-action fusion. It's what makes people with OCD, for example, feel like thinking about harm is the same as doing harm. Spoiler, it's not. Otherwise, we'd all be in jail for the imaginary crimes we commit daily while stuck in traffic. Your brain is a pattern-detecting machine that sometimes mistakes nonsense for prophecy. It has intrusive thoughts like, what if I just screamed in this quiet elevator? And then panics like you're actually about to do it. You're not, but the brain's like, better be safe and overreact violently. So remember, your thoughts are more like pop-up ads than commandments. You didn't ask for them, they're usually wrong, and you're allowed to click ignore. Anxiety is like a smoke detector that goes off when someone microwaves a burrito. Loud, dramatic, totally unhelpful. You ever feel your heart racing, palms sweating, stomach flipping, just because you got an email with no subject line? That's your anxiety flaring up like it's solving crimes when it's really just guessing wildly. See, anxiety evolved to protect us from actual danger. Back when, oh no, a lion was a daily vibe. Being hyper-alert was a survival skill. But now, your brain's still reacting like your life depends on whether Brenda from accounting used an exclamation mark. And here's the fun part. Your brain interprets body signals as truth. So if your heart races, your brain thinks something must be wrong, which makes you more anxious, which makes your heart race more. Congratulations. You're now stuck in a feedback loop sponsored by chaos. It's not your fault. This is your amygdala, the little almond-shaped panic button in your brain, throwing a tantrum. The logical part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, is supposed to step in and be like, hey, we're just at Starbucks. Calm down. But sometimes it's taking a nap. Basically, anxiety is the friend who yells fire because someone lit a candle. Thanks for the enthusiasm. Brenda, have you ever been in an argument, halfway through realizing you might be wrong, but instead of backing down, you double down like a caffeinated lawyer defending their honor in a parking lot? Congratulations. Your brain's confirmation bias is fully operational. Your brain loves being right. It's addicted to it. It will cherry pick, twist, and straight up ignore reality just to keep its precious worldview intact. If you believe you're unlovable, your brain will highlight every rejection, every awkward pause, every ghosted text, but completely ignore that one time someone made you pancakes and said you have nice eyebrows. Confirmation bias isn't just annoying, it's deeply human. Our brains evolved to spot patterns, not truth. And once we think we've spotted a pattern, like people always leave me or I'm bad at math, we stick to it like it's gospel, no matter how many times reality taps us on the shoulder with a polite, actually. This is why conspiracy theories thrive. It's not just misinformation, it's brain gratification. Finding proof feels good, even if it's complete nonsense. Like putting together IKEA furniture with zero instructions and insisting the wobbly chair was intentional design. So next time you catch yourself saying, "See, I knew it," ask yourself, are you being wise? Or is your brain just yelling, "I told you so," because it hates being wrong? Ever sit down to do something productive and suddenly remember that your spice drawer needs reorganizing right now? Or feel an uncontrollable urge to scroll TikTok for just 5 minutes, which mysteriously becomes 2 hours and 47 personality quizzes later? That's not just procrastination. That's cognitive miserliness. Yep, your brain is, in many ways, a cheap, lazy landlord doing the bare minimum. It saves energy like it's hoarding for winter. Thinking deeply, making complex decisions, that's expensive. So your brain cuts corners using mental shortcuts called heuristics, which is science speak for guess and hope for the best. Heuristics are why we assume expensive things are better, why we judge people based on first impressions, and why your brain defaults to "this is fine," while the metaphorical house is very much on fire. You'd think the brain, this billion neuron beast, would be smarter. But no, if it can solve a problem using vibes and half a memory from 2011, it will. This is why we buy stuff we don't need. Trust sketchy headlines. And fall for every "this one trick will change your life" clickbait ever written. So the next time you wonder why you're avoiding your to-do list by alphabetizing your sock drawer, just remember, your brain isn't trying to ruin your life. It's just conserving energy by gently sabotaging your future. Think your memories are accurate? Cute. Your brain doesn't store memories like files on a computer. It's more like a chaotic artist who repaints the same picture every time you look at it and adds a little flair each time. A flower here, a flamingo there. Suddenly, your trip to the grocery store in 2017 involved fireworks and maybe a sword fight. This is called memory reconsolidation, and it's as dramatic as it sounds. Every time you recall something, your brain reconstructs it. And it's not very careful. It mixes in feelings, suggestions, and TikToks you watched last night. This is why eyewitness testimony is about as reliable as a weather forecast from a talking goldfish. Worse yet, your brain doesn't tell you it's making stuff up. It just hits you with that classic "trust me bro" energy and expects you to believe it. In experiments, researchers have successfully implanted false memories into people's minds. As in, people were convinced they got lost in a mall as a kid, even when it never happened. Their brains filled in details, emotions, the smell of pretzels, all of it fabricated. So next time you reminisce and someone says, "That's not how it happened," maybe pause before yelling, "Yes, it is." Because it turns out your brain is less historian, more chaotic fanfiction writer. Ever feel sad and then try to figure out why you're sad, only to realize you skipped lunch and are just emotionally hangry? Welcome to the weird world of interoception, a fancy word for how your brain interprets signals from your body. Spoiler alert, it's bad at it. That stomach flutter could be excitement or anxiety, or that third iced coffee coming back to haunt you. Your brain guesses, and often guesses wrong. It's like trying to understand Morse code when the sender is just mashing the keyboard. This is how people end up mistaking a fast heartbeat from caffeine for a full-blown panic attack. Your body says, "Here's a signal," and your brain screams, "We're dying." Psychologists call this misattribution of arousal. And it's the reason roller coasters make people fall in love. Seriously. Studies show that people are more likely to feel attracted to someone after doing something adrenaline pumping. Why? Because their body says arousal, and their brain goes, "Must be love," when it's actually just the rush of almost puking on a tilt-a-whirl. Basically, your emotions aren't always deep, meaningful truths. Sometimes they're just your nervous system playing charades with a blindfold on. 8, you think you're multitasking, but you're really just speed dating your attention span. Answering emails while on a Zoom call while texting your mom back? Sounds productive, right? Wrong. What you're actually doing is task switching, and your brain is not built for it. At all. Each switch takes time, milliseconds. Sure, but they add up. Studies show that trying to multitask can lower productivity by up to 40%. That's like doing your job while someone repeatedly pokes you in the forehead and says, "Focus," and you keep saying, "I am." Your brain's prefrontal cortex is responsible for managing attention. But it's not like a symphony conductor. It's more like a guy with 2 walkie-talkies, panicking. When you bounce between tasks, your brain drops one, scrambles to pick up the next, and hopes you don't notice the crash in the background. Worse, multitasking feels productive. That little dopamine boost from doing it all tricks you into thinking you're winning. But in reality, you're doing a bunch of things badly, all at once. So the next time you're juggling tabs, notifications, and a snack, you're not being efficient. You're just doing an Olympic-level attention faceplant in slow motion. Let's say you flunked an exam, got ghosted, or dropped a taco face down on the pavement. Tragedy. But then you hear your inner voice go, that test was dumb anyway," or "I wasn't even that into them," or "the pavement needed seasoning." Congratulations. You just witnessed cognitive dissonance reduction in action. This is your brain's weird little way of coping when reality sucker punches your expectations. Cognitive dissonance is that itchy, uncomfortable mental state you get when your beliefs and actions don't match. Like when you believe in healthy eating, but end up inhaling an entire pizza and telling yourself it's basically a salad because tomatoes. Your brain hates dissonance. It's like emotional static. So it rewrites the story to make you feel better. This means your brain is less truth-seeking noble scientist and more chaotic PR manager desperately spinning a scandal. It'll bend logic, distort memory, and toss reality under the bus just to keep your self-image intact. And honestly, it kind of works. You get to keep your fragile ego bubble inflated, at the cost of, accuracy. So next time you catch yourself downplaying disappointment or rationalizing a bad decision, don't beat yourself up. Your brain's just doing some emergency damage control. With glitter glue, you're the main character of your life, the protagonist, the chosen one, which is adorable and kind of a problem. See, most of us walk around thinking we're rational, fair, and generally immune to bias. Spoiler, we're not even close. We see the world through what psychologists call the egocentric bias, where everything is subtly, constantly about us. You notice your own mistakes more than others. You remember your contributions in group projects way more than anyone else's. You think people are judging you in social situations when in reality, they're too busy overanalyzing themselves, just like you are. This is why we take things personally when they're not. That email with a period instead of an exclamation point? Probably just bad grammar. But your brain says, "They hate me." I knew it. Meanwhile, the sender's biggest concern is whether they left the oven on. It's not narcissism. It's just how the human brain processes experience. Everything filters through you, which makes sense, except it leads to a distorted view of what's actually happening. So while you're busy building theories about why someone hasn't responded to your text, maybe pause and consider. They're not ignoring you. They're just in the bathroom, or napping, or wild thought, living their life. You see someone for 0.5 seconds and decide they're arrogant, kind, suspicious, hot, or probably into essential oils. You do it. We all do it. That's your thin slicing ability, a fancy term for when your brain makes snap judgments based on very little info. And while it can be surprisingly accurate sometimes, it's also why we stereotype people faster than you can say, bad haircut. Your brain evolved to assess threats fast. Back in the cave days, does this guy look like he'll steal my berries? Was a valid survival question. But now, that wiring's still running in the background while you scroll dating apps or walk into job interviews. First impressions are sticky. 2. Thanks to something called the primacy effect. Whatever we see or feel first tends to carry more weight, even if it's totally wrong. Someone trips when they enter the room, and suddenly you decide they're clumsy forever. Meanwhile, you once spilled soup on your own foot and called it quirky. Even worse. We often don't notice when our first impressions were wrong. Our brains just update the storyline like nothing happened. Oh, I always liked them, we say, after hating them for 3 months. So no, you're not a human lie detector. You're just a brain with opinions built on vibes and a questionable memory. Ever obsess over a cryptic text? Lose sleep wondering why someone unfollowed you? Or spiral because a conversation ended awkwardly and now you're convinced the universe hates you? That's your brain. High on the need for closure. The psychological equivalent of slamming a book shut even if you don't understand the ending. We humans crave resolution. Uncertainty makes us twitchy. It's why cliffhangers drive us insane, and why we'd rather hear bad news than no news. Our brains want the bow on top, even if it's badly tied and full of plot holes. But here's the problem. In real life, closure is often a myth. People ghost. Things end mid-sentence. We don't always get to know why something happened. But your brain refuses to accept that. It fills in the gaps with whatever narrative feels satisfying, or at least less horrifying. Like, they must have moved to a remote island with no Wi-Fi, instead of, they just didn't text back. Or, I didn't get the job because they were intimidated by my potential, instead of, they hired someone else. It's not delusion. It's just your brain trying to build a stable story out of emotional static. So next time you catch yourself making up backstories, remember, your brain isn't lying maliciously. It's just fan-fictioning your pain into something it can handle. Ever say, if I don't get this one thing, I'll literally fall apart? And then you don't get the thing, and somehow, you're fine? That's because your brain is terrible at forecasting emotions. Like, impressively bad. It's called affective forecasting, and it's your brain's clumsy attempt to predict how you'll feel in the future. Spoiler, it usually overshoots, undershoots, and occasionally lands in an entirely different emotional zip code. You think getting that dream job will make you blissfully happy forever? You'll be back to baseline in a few months, complaining about Karen in accounting. You imagine a breakup will destroy you for eternity? Cut to you 3 weeks later, thriving, buying throw pillows, and rediscovering jazz. This happens because of something called the hedonic treadmill. You get a spike in happiness or sadness, and then your brain adjusts back to meh at an alarming speed. It's like your emotions are running on a treadmill, powered by your expectations, and slowly realizing there's no finish line. Worse, your brain ignores context. You don't imagine future you with a cold, running late, holding a soggy sandwich. You imagine ideal you in a cinematic montage of success. Real life, unfortunately, includes traffic and weird smells. So the next time you're convinced that X will make or break your entire emotional existence, maybe chill. Your brain is playing psychic, and it's not even qualified to read horoscopes. If someone followed you around and transcribed every thought you had, you'd probably end up on a list. But here's the thing. Internal monologue is completely normal. You are, in fact, narrating your life like a caffeinated podcast host, constantly. This self-talk isn't just background noise. It shapes your identity, your confidence, your motivation, and sometimes your weirdest anxieties. The voice in your head can be a hype squad or a heckler. And the real twist? You believe it. Instantly. Automatically. Your brain doesn't fact-check internal dialogue. It hears, "I'm such an idiot," and goes, "Yep. Sounds legit." It doesn't ask for receipts. Psychologists call this automatic thought, and it's often linked to anxiety, depression, and self-esteem issues. Basically, your brain can be a passive-aggressive roommate who never shuts up and always finds something to criticize. But you can actually train that voice through cognitive behavioral therapy, mindfulness, or even just calling it out like, "Okay, Karen, we do not need your opinion right now." The goal isn't to shut it up. It's to teach it to be less of a jerk. Because let's face it, if a friend talked to you the way you talk to yourself, you'd block them. Immediately, let's zoom out for a second. After all this weird brain science, you might be thinking, "Wow, my mind is a mess." And you're right, but so is everyone else's. That is the point. All these bizarre quirks, confirmation bias, false memories, thought spirals, emotional confusion, they're not flaws. They're features. They evolved to help you survive in a chaotic world with limited information and constant uncertainty. You're not malfunctioning. You're operating exactly as expected. Your thoughts are not facts. Your feelings are not forever. And your weird mental habits? They're not proof you're broken. They're just what happens when evolution tries to write software updates on the fly. So the next time your brain serves up a spicy hot mess of overthinking, panic, or self-doubt, maybe try this. Laugh a little. Be curious. Talk back. Remind yourself, "Hey, that's just my dramatic little brain again, doing its best with bad lighting and worse Wi-Fi." Because the truth is, you don't have to believe everything you think. And that, dear human, is the most liberating glitch of all.